Hey everyone, Sparrow here, and welcome to our 1000 subscribers special made possible by all of your amazing support and also by your votes in my community tab. I had a few different ideas for a video to celebrate, and overwhelmingly the choice was a signage design video, so that is what we're going to do today. We will be doing 3 different signs: an animal education sign, a wayfinding banner, and additional infographic signage to fit the conservation boards. I'll be working in Adobe Illustrator, but you can also create signs in Photoshop. It's free online equivalent Photopea, which I'll link in the description below, programs like Canva and GIMP, and many others. The tools are generally the same, but I'll try to jump in with tips and tricks for different softwares where I can. Let's get started. First, we'll be putting together an educational sign for an animal that will eventually make its way to True North Sanctuary, the polar bear. This probably doesn't come as a surprise to anyone since it's the animal featured on the sign for the Arctic zone. In this case, I do already have a template which I created alongside the True North Sanctuary logo. If you're interested in learning more about how I do this, make sure to leave me a comment below. But let's go over each portion so you have an idea of how I designed these signs in the first place. First off, we have 2 colors, black and teal. The black is the background for the information, while the teal is a placeholder for the image of the animal. There's also the TNS logo in the top corner as a watermark. For the information, we have the common name of the animal, the Latin name in smaller teal italics, a short description, the IUCN Red List categories, 3 icons with related information about location, diet, and social or reproductive systems, a world map, and a box with a fun fact. The box is created using the rectangle tool and then adding a stroke on the exterior. In this case, I wanted something that had rougher edges and wasn't uniform all the way around for added dynamicism. All of this information I have ready for myself in a spreadsheet, so it's easy to cut and paste when I need it. I usually do a little bit of research and use the species page on the planetzoo wiki to help me as well. The icons I usually find through Google. There are many great websites that I'll list below for finding vectors, icons, and images. Just make sure you're looking for things that are public domain, or if they require attribution, make sure to attribute the artist. Everything you're seeing here was either public domain or created by myself. So here we have our template, and all we're going to do is we're going to slide in some of the info that we have into these areas. So we have the polar bear, common name, and then the Latin name. We're just going to move over and then shift arrow key so we can get it a nice distance away. And put the Latin name in there. And then we're just going to fill in the rest of these items with the information that I already have prepared. Perfect. So now polar bears are also listed as vulnerable, so we'll have to make the VU a little bit more obvious. So I'm going to highlight all of that and deselect the additional items that got picked up. And we're going to also deselect the one that we actually want to be more visible. And then the 2 lines on either side. And we're going to make all of that 10%. So it's a lot harder to see. I'm going to try to select all of these bubbles. And we're going to make those a nice gray color so that we can gray them out even more. Now this one, now that it's visible, we want these 2 to be a gradient so that it looks like it's almost disappearing into the background. So I have a white to black gradient here. And so now we have the 2 lines on either side. This one I'm just going to flip around so that it looks like those 2 lines are disappearing into the background. On our map, we're going to select and we're going to highlight all of the places on the map where we can find polar bears. We're going to make those a deeper teal color, and then we can exit that. Perfect. Now the last thing we have to do is put in an image of our polar bear. So I'm going to select my placeholder, and then I'm going to go over here and go draw inside. This lets it crop the image into that placeholder. So I'm going to go into my folder, place my polar bear image. This is just off of the Zoopedia. And sometimes it doesn't want to just go in there automatically. So I'm just going to cut, select, and paste it in there. And now it will fit nicely within those crop marks. So I'm just going to resize it however I want. Make sure it's not showing any of the blue behind. Something like that. And then I can just go back to draw normal and it'll make those crop marks disappear. So there we have our finished sign, and all we have to do now is make sure that we can use it in planetzoo. So we're going to go to File, Export, Export As. Some programs will have a share button instead, so look out for that. And then from here, we're going to name that Polar Bear Education Sign. I like to use JPEGs or PNGs. JPEGs are a smaller file than PNGs generally, so that's what I will be using here. Use artboards to make sure it doesn't export anything that's outside of the artboard in case there is anything, and then go export and OK. And then from there, all I have to do is go into where I saved it, cut, Control X, go into Documents, Frontier, planetzoo, User Media, and then paste. And this way, I'm able to use it in planetzoo now. Up next, I'll be creating a wayfinding sign for a restaurant coming soon to True North Sanctuary. If you've been watching the series, you've probably seen these signposts around, and we're going to be creating a sign for the Boreal Cafe. You can also create signs in planetzoo using the in-game pieces like so, but I wanted something a little more custom in this case. To start, we need to figure out how large the graphic needs to be. Since I would like this to be a longer sign made up of 2 of the 0.5 meter screens, I'll need to crunch some numbers. According to this post on Frontier's forums, the screens are 456 pixels by 256 pixels. The height is going to be 1 panel, so 256, but the length is going to be 2 panels, so 2 times 456, 912 total. I'll create an artboard of that size for starters. So for this sign, because I've already created some wayfinding signs, I've just set up some guidelines to help me make sure that it fits what has already been designed. So we're going to start with the background, and that's just going to be a rectangle across the back, like so. And then we're going to add some text, so Boreal and Cafe. So this, I believe, is the correct font, Museo Slab 700. Yep, that's correct. And then I'm going to make it this dark brown. I'm going to slide it right in there where it's supposed to be. And then the second word is cafe, and that's going to be a different font. This one right here. I'm going to make it slightly bigger and recolor it once more. And I'm not sure why that popped up. And then we're going to slide it in right here. All right. Then we are going to add our icon, which in this case is a coffee cup. I created this coffee cup in Illustrator using a few art shapes. So I started off with a rectangle and rounded the corners, then chopped off the top bit to leave me with a cup shape. For the handle, I just made a simple circle and then offset it within itself, and then chopped off anything that was within the cup shape. For the saucer, another rounded rectangle, but the corners rounded all the way in, and then split that right in half to create the bottom. Then for the steam rising up, use the pen tool to create an arc, copied, rotated, connected, and then copied those over to create 3. Then I just filled all of that in with the color of my choice. And because this is a wayfinding sign, we of course need it to point somewhere. So we're going to create sort of an arrow feature on the end here. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to hold and click on the rectangle tool and go to polygon. And then when I click, it'll come up with this menu. So I want it to be a triangle, so 3 sides. And we're going to make this a black. And then I'm going to rotate it so the long edge is on the right. And slide that up so it's touching this top corner. Then we're going to make it large enough that it is halfway. So that's showing us that it's half the length of this rectangle. And then slide it in. We're going to select this white arrow, and that's going to let us select this point specifically. We're going to drag this point over to the top, like so. So now we have the triangle I want. And then I can just copy and paste. We're going to go Object, Transform, Reflect. Click OK. And then we're just going to rotate this and slide it in along the bottom, like so. So because this sign is going across 2 screens, we are going to need to split it down the middle. So we could do this manually by hitting the artboard sign and then making the artboard 456 pixels wide, and then shifting it over to one side and duplicating it, and then making this line up with the other edge. So now they should divide it right down the middle, right here. And then we can just export those to artboards, or what we can do is make our lives easier and head over to Image Splitter and go to Upload Image, the row inner sign, decide how many columns we want, so 2 and 1 row, and then just slide it over, make it take up the whole image, and then that will split the sign down the middle for us. That seems to fit in very well with the current signage all around the zoo. Lastly, let's make a sign that fits the conservation education boards. There are quite a few around True North Sanctuary that are sitting empty at the moment, so I'll be creating a sign for the Wolf Watchtower about how exactly wolf packs work. Alright, so we're making this one completely from scratch. I've just created the artboard here, so it is 456 pixels in height by 256 pixels in width. I've also borrowed some of the text from our educational signage so that we have a common theme throughout, and then I also have some wolf silhouettes that I found online. And if you'll notice, they're all SVGs. So SVGs and EPS files means they're already vectorized and they will open immediately in your program, and you can scale them to any size you want. They will not get pixelated whatsoever. So let's get started. We're gonna throw this up here and obviously change the color so that we can actually see it. We'll make it a nice dark gray. We're also going to center align it, and we're going to center align the whole thing to the artboard, and then we'll just slide it up there. So this is going to be pack tactics, because this sign is going to talk about how packs are structured. And we're going to grab our description text, same thing, we're just going to center align it, but this time we're going to bring it into these margins I've set up for myself. So these outside lines will keep the information nice and contained within the frame. We're also going to make that black so that we can see it. And I'm going to pop into the research I've done already and grab some text. Perfect. Let's slide that up. Then we're going to have a subtitle. This will also be a much darker color. Let's make it the same as the title. No, let's make it slightly lighter. And this one will stay left aligned, though it might take up quite a bit of room. How are wolf packs structured? So here what we're going to do is we're going to have 2 columns. That's what these middle guidelines are for. It's to keep the text separated in the 2 columns. So on the right, I'm going to have a little bit more text about the information that we're including here. Right here. And it looks like it's not quite fitting in there, so we're just going to make this slightly bigger, like that. These are also semi-bold, so I think what we oh no, they're regular. We're going to keep them regular. They just look really dark. And then on this side, what we're going to do is we're going to include these silhouettes. So I'm just going to copy and paste. Oh, that's massive. Let's make it 100 pixels. Still pretty big. Let's do 50. Perfect. And we're just going to throw these into this side. I'm going to grab the wolf. Again, 50 pixels. That one's a little smaller. Scale it down. And last one, this one. Throw it at the bottom here. And that one can be a little bit smaller because we are talking about wolf pups as well. So we do need some more explanatory text. These ones are going to be all caps, and the head of a wolf pack is the dominant breeding pair. I'm going to throw that in there and make it slightly smaller. And then let's see how that fits into our graphic here. I think we might need to make it 2 lines. Perfect. So dominant breeding pair. Then we have their young adult offspring. Which will go over here. And then we have their youngest pups at the bottom. Like so. I'm just going to move these items around so they make a little bit more sense. I think these ones could actually be smaller. We will make the pups a little bit smaller as well, just so that we can fit this young adult offspring a little bit more like so. If we bleed into this column divider, that's fine too. It's just a tail tip. And then this one we're going to make even smaller to make it look like pups. And align that like so. And then that can slide up. And maybe over a little bit. So it's not completely the same. Make it a little bit more dynamic. It's a little bit too high up visually. Alright. And then that, we just want to make sure that all of those elements are aligned centrally to the text on the side here as well. So it is centered like so, I think. And then up one, because gravity is going to pull things down anyway, so usually the space you have at the bottom, you want it to be slightly larger than the space that you have at the top. So the final thing that we are adding to the sign is going to be 3 info boxes at the bottom. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, there it is, and we're going to make a box that fits between the margins here. So let's just, I think 100 pixels, slightly larger. So it'll actually be 104? 105. Okay, 105, and let's make it about 75 pixels tall, like so. And we're going to make it lighter because otherwise we won't be able to see our text whatsoever. Let's make it like that. Okay, so now each of these is going to have a short title. So we'll use this same thing as the subtitle. We'll go down, down shift 1, over shift 1, and then this is going to be Wolf Loyalty. And then we can make that slightly smaller because it's not a main subtitle. We want to keep that hierarchy going throughout. And then we will also have some text underneath, so we just want to align that and slide it over. And then I'm going to grab the text that I had in here and copy it in there, like so. That seems very long. So we are gonna move it closer to the title, not that close. Okay, that looks alright. And then we are gonna slide it over a little bit because the margin on this rectangle seems quite large when it could be taken up by information instead. And then that means we can make this one slightly smaller too. Okay, so this box will have to be slightly bigger. Oh, we could also make this text smaller. Let's do that instead. There we go. I don't like when there's one single word on a line like that. We call those orphans. So I'm gonna slide that over to make sure that it's not all on its own. And then we can center that a little bit more like that, which means that our box can actually be, I think the original 75. Oh, even smaller. Let's make it 70 pixels, if I can manage that. There we go. Just like so. And then we are going to copy that whole thing over to create more text over here. And then we will also create another one underneath here so that we can have a bigger box. All right, so now these boxes are looking a little bit too plain. So what I'm going to do is we're going to include these little kind of like watermark features in the background. So for those, I've picked out a few Unicode characters, the heart, this upward arrow that kind of looks like a tree, and the alpha symbol. So I'm going to, because these aren't supported by the fonts that I've used, I'm going to quickly screenshot each one. So once I have all of my characters in here, I'm going to select the screenshot and then I'm going to hit image trace. And for these ones, I think I might go with sketched art so that it doesn't look super uniform. And then go expand. And now I have a vectorized object that I can move around and I can scale to my heart's content and it won't get any pixelated. So I'm going to slide that into the box here, and it's quite a bit darker than the text. I want to keep it darker than the box still though, so I'll hit that one, make it about 30% opacity, and then what I'm going to do is send it all the way to the back, and using Control and the square right bracket, hit that a few times so that it pops up on top of the gray box, but still behind the text, like so. And now we have a watermark that makes things a little bit more interesting than before. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that with the other two as well. So now the last thing we need to do is we need to add a background image to give a little bit more interest to this sign. So I have a mountain image in here, and this is obviously in front of everything right now. So we're going to send it all the way to the back, like so. We can't really see the text on top of that. So we're going to make it more transparent. I think we'll go with about a 30, like the watermarks. Yeah. That looks pretty good. And then I want this big mountain in the corner here, like so that we also have some of the trees poking through. Sure, just like that. It is also still quite tall, so what we could do is we can make it shorter so that fits the height of our design. There we go. I like that a lot better. Just like so. And then once I'm happy with that, I can either leave it like this, or I can go to Object, Crop Image, and just crop the area that is on the artboard so that I don't have all of this extra stuff. Sometimes it's fun to just see the artboard visually and not all the stuff all around, like that. That is our wolf infographic done. We did a lot of good work with the custom signs today. If you have any questions specific to design, make sure to leave them in the comments. I do have experience in graphic design and education, funnily enough, so I'll try my best to help if you need it. Once again, thank you for 1,000 subscribers. You guys are the best, and I can't wait to bring you more awesome content. See you next time. Bye.